to Grade 9 Mathematics, and you're here with me again, Sir Rodiat. And today our topic is going to be about quadratic equations and determining the equation given a table of values. There are 3 steps that we have to determine. For our next session, we will be discussing about graphs and roots. But for this session, we'll focus on table of values. So if we're going to be looking for the equation of table of values, we will have to master algebraic linear equations because we will be using that as we go along. But how do we do that? So our first step is we're going to be selecting 3 pairs in the table. So for example, what do I mean by pairs is that the x and y pair. So you have to choose 3 pairs out of the sets of tables. So example, we will be choosing these 3 pairs, -2 and 6, -1 and 3, and 0 and 2. So we will be using that pairs and then we will substitute it to their proper standard forms. If you remember our standard form, the standard form is ax squared equal ax squared plus bx plus c, and then we will have an equal what over here. So all we have to do is to substitute all of the x values to their proper places. So we will plug in -2 here, and -1 again to another equation here, and with 0 there and there again. And for y, all we have to do is just change the y places from here. Okay, so let's get to it. So let's first find our first equation. So equation 1, we'll name it as equation 1. So equation 1 will take the first pair. Our first pair is going to be -2 and 6. So knowing that y's places is just going to be 6, so we just write 6 is equal to a is our unknown, then x squared, so we have -2 squared, plus b unknown, then times -2 plus c as our unknown. So that is our first equation. So let's simplify it so that later on when we manipulate the other equations together, we will get the answer faster. So just simplify it. How do we simplify it? 6 has nothing to we don't have anything to manipulate with 6. But here we have -2 squared. So -2 times -2 will give us a 4. So we have 4a as our first term. Then we have plus b times -2. So we will have a -2. So I'll change the sign now. -2b plus c. So this is our equation 1 for the first pair. So for the second pair, what we're going to be doing is we will now mix -1 and 3 in the equation. So same procedure. Equation 2, we'll name it. So we have 3 is equal to a times -1 squared plus b times -1 plus c. So again, simplify. We have 3, we have a plus b, negative b, and plus c. Why is it negative b? -1 times b is negative. -1 times -1 will give us a positive 1, so it's now positive a. C, we just bring it down. So this is our second equation. And our third equation, so we'll take the third pair. Take note that the pairs we will be using has to be consecutive, so they have to be with each other so that we can properly find out the equation. So substituting that, we have 2 is equal to a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus c. So 0 will cancel out the a and the b, so that means we have now 2 is equal to c. So for our third equation, looking at this procedure, we already have c as our first term. So in our standard form, we already have the letter c, which is number 2. Now, what we're going to be doing now is we will have to manipulate this value to find third value for a or b. You can select either a or b, but let's try and take first one equation. So let's choose out of these 2, either equation 1 or equation 2, which is simpler to manipulate. So looking at the values, these terms are quite larger than these terms up here. So let's take the lesser term so it's easier for us to manipulate. So let's take equation 2 and we'll substitute 2 inside the c space to get us equation 4. Okay? So equation 4 we will manipulate equation 2. So we will take equation 2, we have 3 is equal to a negative b plus 2. The 2 came from the c term. Okay, so what do you want to solve first? We can choose either a or b, and then we solve for that term. So let's say we take the b and we transpose it to the other side, and then we transpose c to the other side to get our equation 4. So we will transpose b. We will have now a positive b is equal to, transposing 3 to this side, we have negative 3 plus a plus 2. Simplify the terms, we have b is equal to a negative 1, right? So we have our fourth equation. So from this fourth equation, we can choose either equation 2 or equation 1 and plug in b in its position. So we'll plug it in and then we just simplify it algebraically. So let's select equation 1 because we didn't use it yet. It's okay to select equation 2, you'll still get the correct answer. But preferably let's try using the other one. Let's manipulate it. So we'll plug this equation to this space over here. So let's take 6 is equal to 4a minus 2 times a minus 1. And then plus c, which is 2, because c is already 2. So simplify first, following our algebraic terms. We'll distribute the negative 2 here. So we will have 4a minus 2a plus 2 plus 2. Simplify. We have 2a plus 4, transpose 4 to the other side. We have 6 minus 4 is equal to 2a. Then we will have 2 is equal to 2a. And then we just divide 2. Divide 2. Our a is going to be equal to 1. So now we have a 1 term for our x squared. So 1 times x squared will give us x squared. So now we're just missing the last term for b. So how do we do that? We can choose any of these two, again, any of these two, and then just substitute a and c. And if we substitute a and c, we'll get the proper form of b. So let's take the easiest one, which is 3 is equal to a minus b plus c. Substitute their terms. So we have 3 is equal to a is 1, so we have 1 minus b plus 2, because 2 is c is 2. Okay, so transpose b and transpose 3, we have b is equal to negative 3 plus 1 plus 2. So cancels out each other, simplify, b is actually equal to 0. So 0 times x means 0x, right? So that means our final equation is going to be y is equal to x squared plus 2. And that is our equation given the table of values here. So that's an example if we take a 0x. So what happens if we have an equation that doesn't use the 0, because that made our life easier because we have a 0. So we'll take that in the next example. Okay, so a while ago we discussed about an equation using the pair of 0. So what if we're going to take 3 pairs that we don't include a 0 in it? So we will have to manipulate it, finding equation 4 and then equation 5. So how do we do that? So same step for the previous one. First, let's get 3 pairs. Let's select this pair, and this pair. And let's create an equations from them. So we'll have equation 1 as the first pair. So 7 is equal to a times negative 3 squared plus b times negative 3 plus c. So our first equation is going to be 7, 9a plus minus 3 or negative 3b plus c. So this is our first equation. Our second equation, second pair, so negative 2 and 2. So 2 is equal to a times negative 2 squared plus b times negative 2 plus c. So simplify again. We have 2 is equal to 4a negative 2b plus c. Okay, so this is our second equation. Our third equation our third equation, substitute again. So we have negative 1 is equal to a times negative 1 squared plus b times negative 1 plus c. So our third equation has a negative 1, a minus b plus c. Okay, so now we have our equation 1 and 2 and 3. So we can now look for equation 4. To get equation 4, what we're going to do is that we will have to take equation 1 and minus it with equation 2. Then to get equation, that's how we're going to get for equation 4. Equation 4 is going to be negative 7 is equal to 9a minus 3b plus c, and then we will have 2 is equal to 4a minus 2b plus c. Okay, so we have to change the sign for the second term, for the second equation. So change the sign by multiplying it with negative on both sides. So we now have negative 2, negative 4, positive 2, and negative c. So negative c. So simplifying that horizontally, vertically. So c minus c is going to be 0, so we cancel c out. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1b, so negative b. And we have 9 minus 4a, so we have 5a is equal to 7 minus 2, we have 5. So that is our equation 4. 5 is equal to 5a minus b. For equation 5, we're going to be taking the first term again, or the first equation. 7 is equal to 9a minus 3b plus c, and then we're going to minus it with equation 3. So equation 3 is negative 1 is equal to a negative b plus c. So change the sign again. So we're going to change the sign. So negative becomes positive, a becomes negative, b becomes positive, and c becomes negative. And again, we will now minus c. And then negative 3 plus b, we have negative 2b. 9 minus 1 is going to be 8a. Then 7 plus 1 is 8. So this is our equation for 5. Okay, so now we can now use equation 4 and equation 5 to cancel out b. So we will take equation 4 and equation 5. So 5 is equal to 5a negative b. Then 8 is equal to 8a negative 2b. So what we notice is that negative b over here is not equal with the negative 2 over here. So what number should we multiply to this equation so that we can cancel out with these two equations? So what we're going to be doing is we will be multiplying with negative 2 for both sides here. Why? Because if we multiply negative 2 for both sides, this becomes positive 2, and then it cancels out negative 2b, and we can remove b in that manner. So it really depends on the number below it or the number it's paired with. So let's take that. So we have negative 10 is equal to negative 10a, then positive 2b, and we have 8 is equal to 8a negative 2b. So we'll cancel out b, and then we're left with negative 10 minus negative 10a plus 8. So we're going to have negative 2a is equal to negative 10 plus 8. We have negative 2 again. So we'll just divide negative 2 to both sides. Negative 2. So we have a is equal to 1 because negative over negative becomes a positive number. So this is our first term that we can substitute here. So a is going to be 1 x squared in our equation. A is going to be 1 x squared in our equation. So, so now we have a. So what can we do now to get the next letter? So the best way to get the next letter is substitute the letter a. Substitute this letter a into either the equation 4 or equation 5. So we get to choose which would be easier to manipulate for us. So looking at the equations for 4 and 5, the smaller number for us to easily manipulate is going to be equation 4. So let's take equation 4 and substitute letter A. So we have 5 equals 5 times 1 minus b, or negative b. So simplify that. So we have 5 is equal to 5 negative b transpose transpose b, and transpose the other 5 to this side. So transpose b, transpose this. So we now have b is positive, then 5 is going to be 5 minus 5. So we now have b is equal to 0 for this equation. So we now have b as 0, x. So our last number, or last letter for us to find out is letter C. So what is C going to be? C is going to be a number we will just substitute with letter A and B. So we have A as 1 and B as 0. So we can choose any of these equations, equation 1, 2, or 3. It will give us the correct letter for C. So let's choose the easiest one, obviously, because we don't want to deal with bigger numbers. So let's take equation 3. So looking at equation 3, we'll just substitute letter A and B. Okay, so we have negative 1 is equal to 1 minus 0 plus C. So to simplify that, we will transpose 1 to this side, so negative 1, and then C. So our C is going to be negative 2. So that is our letter C. So our letter C is going to be negative 2. So our final equation is going to be y is equal to x squared minus 2. And that is our quadratic equation given this table of values.